You're listening to SM Media, the #1 place for exclusive content.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Scottish Football Show right here in SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always. Got another really busy weekend of Scottish football to look back on, and we'll start first of all with talking to Wilson about the big result of the weekend. Glenburn 0, Stuart United 6. What a result that was!
Aye, and it was well deserved, to be fair. There was some discipline problems throughout from the opposition. But at that time, it was 3-0. We started really well. I told the manager, let me take charge this week, and he said, aye, okay. But we started really well. We were 3-0 up quite early. And then, as I say, the game got a bit towsy, and there was some red cards. But we managed to see it out and get the 3 points and up the road. A very difficult place to go. Very good players at Glenburn. So, surprised Sky didn't show the highlights today, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Who was the referee?
Craig Thompson. No, it was Nicole Andrews, Charlie. It was Nicole.
All right.
Brilliant. We also are joined by Rory Loy. Rory, how are we?
Yeah, all good. Looking forward to the show.
Brilliant. We are joined as well by Charlie Richmond. Charlie, it's a pleasure to have you back on. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Brilliant.
Another quick invitation.
Brilliant. We are going to dissect all the action in the Premiership and where else to start, but Ibrox today. Rangers 1, Celtic 0. A Philip Hollander second half goal gave Rangers a 1-0 victory in the first Old Firm game of the season. We'll come to Rory first. Rory, did the better team win, and what was your overall thoughts in the game?
My overall thoughts in the game was I was quite disappointed in the standard of the forward play. Generally speaking, I think you've come to expect more from the front line of Rangers when it comes to the decision making in the final third and that final piece of quality, which I thought was lacking today. And you've almost come to expect it from Celtic's front guys as well over the last few weeks. And I just felt that I was a little bit, disappointed. It got to the final third a few times and it broke down. Crosses finding the stand. Barisic had a few wayward ones. Ralston was the same. So I was disappointed in the overall standard. Did the better team win? Probably. I would probably say by 1 goal was probably about right. So I think on the balance of play and the standard of play, 1-0, quite often in football, a result doesn't reflect how the game went. But on the balance of play, I think that 1-0 Rangers was probably about right.
Wilson, what was your overall thoughts in the game? Did Rangers deserve to win the game, Jan?
Yes, especially based on their second half performance. I mean, as Rory touched on, there was a distinct lack of quality throughout, but you could highlight probably over the 90 minutes an impact that every Rangers player had in the game. You couldn't say the same about some of the Celtic players. It's another 90 minutes Old Firm game where many of the bigger players have absolutely failed to turn up, and I thought that was the biggest difference. I say every Rangers player had an input in the game. There was 5 or 6 Celtic players posted missing for 90 minutes again.
Charlie, what was your overall thoughts in the game?
I think everybody's saying how disappointed they were because of the first one in the season, with everybody looking forward to the way that they had set up to go. Celtic were going to play fast and fluent football, and Rangers were kind of going to hang on because of the COVID issues and obviously the injury issues for there. Overall, I just thought it was a poor game, a poor in every way. Rory was talking about the standard of football, the finishing or the crossing into the box. I thought everything was it was a poor game.
Rory, the start of the game, obviously, we spoke a lot about the team news, how the teams would set up. Ange Postecoglou's come out at the end of the game and said he regrets playing Edouard. He would rather have played Furuhashi through the middle. Do you think he got his team wrong?
Well, they lost the game. He got his team wrong. I heard he was going to go with Furuhashi through the middle, but after listening to myself and Wilson, the other night saying that Edward should play through the middle. He changed his mind, so I think he's got us to blame for that. But no, I mean, they got it wrong. I mean, you could argue that Rangers, were 1-0 up, sitting slightly deeper, etc., over the last 20 minutes. But there was a noticeable difference when Furuhashi went through the middle. They created chance after chance in that last kind of 25-minute period, 20-minute period, where Furuhashi went up front. He timed his runs really well. And the players behind him seem to know when to deliver that pass. He plays right on the shoulder, but very rarely gets caught offside, which is quite rare.
Yeah.
So I mean, they created 2-3 chances, and that's probably why Postecoglou says it. And all credit to Postecoglou for coming out and saying that, because you wouldn't normally get that type of, Gerrard will come out and say, it's my fault, this is on me, but he won't go into the specifics of it.
You're a fan of Postecoglou, aren't you?
Well, it's an interesting one what you said today. I don't know how Edward will take that news, especially if he's going to be there come the end of the transfer window, to come out and publicly say I should have started Furuhashi through the middle. That's effectively saying, if you're Edward, I shouldn't have played. But Wilson touches on a good point, which is about the impact that Rangers player had. Kent's getting a lot of stick. Ralston, kind of had him in his pocket in the first half, except. But the difference is that he kept going back for the ball. Yeah. 50,000, supporters, not on his back, but the frustrations, the groans, the moans. He's still winning the odd free kick. He's still impacting the game. You would much rather somebody kept doing that and it shows character to do that. Abada, Christie, etc. They gave the ball away a few times. They kind of went into themselves. A little bit of hide and seek going on. So Kent didn't have his best game, but again, it's highlighted because he keeps going back and getting the ball. He might give it away more often than others, but at least he wants it. And as Wilson says, you could probably look back at 2, 3, 4 instances in the game where he did have a positive impact on it, because he kept trying the right things and doing the right things. So, to answer your original question, Celtic did get it wrong. They lost the game. So in an Old Firm, it's about winning. And if you don't win, then you've got it wrong.
Wilson, Rangers came out in the second half, and I think the intensity did kind of change. I think they were a lot more direct, and I think they kind of cleared up the problem I saw in the first half, where they were letting a lot of space go through the midfield. What did you think of Rangers' overall performance on the day?
I think the first half was kind of game of chess. I think the Rangers went for it a wee bit, Celtic went for a wee bit. I think at half time, whether Gerrard has an input, I'm quite sure he does, or Gary McAllister said, this Ange ball's a myth. This doesn't exist. The intensity and the flamboyancy and the way Celtic are playing, it doesn't exist. Have a go back. Be a bit more positive, carry the ball a wee bit better, and create. And Celtic, I think, got a bit of a fright, because the first I think it started with the Barisic kind of free kick. I know it wasn't a great free kick, but they got the free kick, after about 46 minutes. And then the Rangers just didn't kind of relent from there. It was just, not chance after chance as such, but Rangers had all the ball. Aribo was becoming a threat. As you say, Kent doesn't hide. He was still wanting on it. Morales putting himself about a wee bit more. And from then on, the whole second half, up until maybe the last 10 minutes, for me, was all Rangers.
Yeah. Charlie, what was your overall thoughts on Kevin Clancy's performance?
I thought he'd done what he had to do, and he kept in the background, and he let the game go, and he didn't get involved in niggly fouls. And then when there was major decisions to be made, he was there. An easier game, know that there ever is, but an easier Old Firm game for a referee. And Kevin missed out in one last season, so he'll be delighted to go in there and come away with, they're not talking about me in the papers tomorrow. So, yeah, I thought he had a good performance. I thought he nailed it at the right times. A lot of people were thinking Turnbull was harshly cautioned. Golson comes in and plays the ball away, and then he comes in and takes him for that side of things. So you could look at it for that point. Again, Morelos slips, goes down. Everybody's looking for a penalty for that side. So over the piece, yeah, I thought Kevin had a good game.
Wilson, would you agree with that?
No, I didn't think. Again, now, I'm all having a pop at refs as I always do. Charlie knows much more about it than me, but I don't feel Turnbull can go or do anything in that situation. So
that's why I'm saying people thought he was harshly cautioned. But see, because Golston plays the ball and then he comes in and hits him, if Turnbull had played a bit of the ball, then there's a chance for there. But
I don't think there's any way Turnbull can go when he goes.
Well, I mean, we're discussing a yellow card here. I mean, when it comes to referees, I personally, Wilson, you can't. I'll ask you the question. Do you think he had any decisions which had any bearing on the outcome of the actual game or the result?
No,
well,
I think
so
he gave
Morales commits 3 booking fouls for me. So two of those would be yellow cards that would be off the park. Callum McGregor as well has 2 yellow card fouls, and equally you could argue that he could have been sent off as well.
Again,
I don't think it impacted the game, but it's the inconsistency. Turnbull's booked, McGregor's not. It's inconsistent. The fouls aren't any different for me. As I say, Morales 3 fouls on. And it must not be Scott Bounds, it must be the Celtic captain, because he put 3 fouls in on Callum McGregor, one's off the ball, and he's still not cautioned. No, I'm not saying that impacts the game. I'm just, and that's where I go on. It's the complete inconsistencies of the referee, And as I say, McGregor could equally have been booked as well, So
in the overall control of the game, because that's what you're ultimately there to do.
I think he got a lot of decisions incorrect, but it didn't impact the game. Rangers were the better team and won the game. We've not had that usually, because usually referee impacts the game. As Charlie says, they won't be talking about Kevin Clancy in the papers tomorrow.
I would look at it at one thing now. What has the referee got to do in the 90 minutes? And my main objective would be he has to control the football match. And that might be letting a tit for tat. You've had one at him, you've had one at him, you've had one at him, you've had one at him. That's all in the control of the game. And having a personality and having a bit of banter and taking a bit of steam out of the game. Whereas if you say, right, that's a yellow card, you could walk away from that game 7 or 8 yellow cards. But over the piece, the way he done it, he was in control of that game. And that's where we fall into the pattern of the consistency of it. A guy might do a tackle in the first 5 minutes, and then an opponent do the same tackle in the 85th minute. But see, up until that 85th minute tackle, it's been constant, relentless, and bang. That's control of the game. In the first 5 minutes, you can benefit the doubt, and that's having the feel for the game and the control of the game.
I'm not disputing that. But yeah. What I always find with, and you'll see it in a lot of games, just say, for example, McGregor can put in 3 or 4 tackles, fouls, Morales, Lundstram, whoever's playing can do it. And then all of a sudden, he books someone that's put in their first tackle because the game starts to get a wee bit towsy. Is that what you mean by controlling the game?
So no, but what he's deemed as that as a caution. Well, every foul's not a caution.
McGregor's as a caution as well, surely. Worse than Turnbull's, in my opinion.
I just don't think that the game had any
flashpoints.
Like Morelos slips, it's clear he slips. Morelos didn't even ask for the penalty. The Balogun one's never a penalty. I don't think he had any big decisions to make where it was on the fence. So I think that's why he'll not be spoken about, because as Charlie says, there was very little in the way of
in the lodge tonight. They'll be raising a drink to him in the lodge tonight. The right result came through for the establishment. That's what they'll be doing.
Rory, back to the game at hand. Rangers, obviously, they've not started the season brilliant. It's even today you wouldn't say it was a great performance, but how big a result is that to kind of get a bit of confidence back towards them? Obviously, a big win today. That's gave them a bit of a boost in the league. Would you agree with that?
Of course. I mean, 4 games deep into the season, I don't think any team in the league wants to have lost 2 games out of 4. Never mind Rangers and Celtic. So the loser of today was always going to be in that position. So I think it's psychologically it's a big one, because it's another game where Celtic haven't beaten Rangers. I think there was a lot of uncertainty around this fixture. I think Rangers, after the first Old Firm last season, approached the next 3 and is favourites and won the rest of the games. And I think there was an air of uncertainty. And I think even in the home changing room today, there would have been a little bit of uncertainty about what to expect from Celtic. A little bit of nerves as to how they would approach the game. Having that goalkeeper and Robbie McCrory, who turned out to do fantastically well, but before the game, you've got that doubt in the back of your mind. So I think there was a lot of ifs and buts before the game, and I think that the resilience they showed when they went 1-0 up will stand them in good stead moving forward. But I also think that it's an old firm day and they've been beaten, but they did create opportunities. But I find that we said that a lot last year as well, that they created opportunities and never took them, Celtic. But to answer your question, it's a big lift for Rangers because, like I said, they've now taken 9 points out of 12 instead of 6 points out of 12, which I know it's only one more victory, but it just psychologically, as you say, it seems it feels a lot better. But I think that Celtic will be fine this season. I think it'll be nip and tuck all the way. I don't think there'll be a lot between the two teams throughout the season, and I don't believe, Ange Ball is it's a bit of a catchphrase, it's a gimmick. So coming away from that expression, I don't believe that it's a myth though. Postecoglou has a particular way of playing. It didn't work today particularly well.
Do you think tactically in a game like that, it maybe had to kind of change it, and once the second half of the game kind of did change more towards Rangers kind of blocking the midfield a bit? Do you think that's when he did have to make that decision, as you say, maybe take Edouard off and balance the midfield a bit?
Not really, because if you've got a philosophy, and a way of playing, see in the first couple of seasons where Gerrard was there and he was having no success, did he change it?
Yeah,
no, he never. You stick with your philosophy, you stick with your principles, and you believe that it'll come good because that's your beliefs and that's the way you want to implement a way of playing. So I don't believe that his way of playing is a myth. I still seen Ralston coming in the pitch. I still see they just didn't happen to execute things as well as they have done previously, and they were simply playing against a stronger team, so they're not going to have as much success. But I believe in time that his way of playing will be exciting to watch, and I do think that the league season will be very close this season. I think Celtic will be good to watch for the majority of it.
Did you not think as well that both sides were giving the ball away a lot in the course of the game?
Aye, and that comes back to what we touched on. There was just a poor standard all round. The first 15 minutes, you can say it's frantic, but it didn't really settle at all into much pattern. It was kind of end to end in the first half, but without really any cutting edge. It was quite a strange game. It was very frustrating to watch, I found.
Do you think Rangers would take a wee bit more from it because they've got a weakened team and Celtic had the stronger team on paper and Rangers have come away with a result?
I don't. Other than the goalkeeper, I don't really think it was a weakened team. I mean, I would be starting Morelos, Roof, and Aribo today. I would have started them. I would have started with Kamara. I would have started with Davis. Helander and Goldson would be my back two. Balogun at right back's the only other one really.
I thought he had a terrific game as well, Balogun.
I don't see where they were weakened other than the goalkeeper. Listen. The goalie, it was a great game for him. He grew into it. He had a couple of nice come out and took the ball a couple of times, which settled his nerves, I'm sure, and then he grew into the game. But I don't think there was enough missing for Rangers today, personnel-wise, for it to be, Rangers reserves and all that kind of patter. It was far from that. It was a strong team, and I wouldn't necessarily agree with Charlie that Celtic had a stronger team on paper. I think it was fairly even.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Wilson, see this kind of, we've all kind of heard the phrase Ange Ball. Do you think it's going to work in those big games where it's going to be more frantic? You're going to have a bit more opposition on the ball and things like that. And what would your kind of thoughts be, as you said, the likes of Turnbull, Christie, who really, again, just didn't really show in the big games where they've, obviously Turnbull last week scored a hat-trick, so we know he's capable. Just the big games, there's been something no right with Turnbull and Christie. Would you kind of go along with that?
Absolutely. You can add Abada into that category as well, who was absolutely anonymous today as well. And I don't think it was because of how well Barisic, etc. played him. I think he was just really, really poor. He couldn't get on the ball. He wasn't really running off the ball, as from what I've seen. But touching on the Ange Ball, as it's now kind of well phrased, I messaged in our chat after 10 minutes, because obviously I listen to Rory and BBC Scotland frequently. But if this is the Ange Ball as such, that's taking 6 goals off Dundee, St Mirren, and for 45 minutes, whatever it was last week, dominating Hearts, I failed to see what was any different from a Neil Lennon team, apart from, it was played at a wee bit higher tempo. I've got the same feeling now as I had when Goldson scored the 2 headers at the first Old Firm game last year. Celtic are absolutely nowhere near Rangers. And if you're
Do
buying
you think psychologically, like, are you saying that from a psychological point of view, or are you thinking
I'm saying that I'm looking at that 1-11 today, right? And I'm saying, who was the best goalkeeper on the pitch? That's possibly a toss-up, because I don't remember Joe Hart having any outstanding saves. I think, as we've debated, he could have done better at the goal. He's got a hand to it at least. McCrory's had one save to make and he's made it. Now, if that was McGregor, it would have been a comfortable save. Who was the best right back in the pitch today? Well, it was Balogun. Who were the best two centre-halves today in the pitch? Golson, Hollander. Who was the best left back today? It was Barisic. Who was the best centre midfielder? Probably Davis. Then possibly Aribo. Then maybe Cal McGregor. Who was the best of the front three? Rangers front three. So I don't buy into this. This is a long-term project, because Celtic fans are not going to give this guy time. I
don't agree that Rangers front three were better than Celtic's front three today.
Well, I think it was much of a muchness, to be honest. I
don't think there was much between them. But at the end of the day, whether it's Hollander that scores or somebody else that scores, Rangers front three have got a win bonus and 3 points. Farashi looked good when he went through the middle. He's missed battles. Yeah. So and then and the goal of Ryan Christie to be screaming for that cutback, because he would have missed that, because that's another Old Firm game where he's not kicked his own arse. And for him thinking he's heading to the Premiership, he should be heading to the Lowland Colts team, because the performances that he puts in Old Firm games, that's the level he's at. And Turnbull's another one. And now I always listen to Off the Ball on the radio, and Tam Cowan was saying this guy Turnbull's destined for the top. Aye, you score a couple of goals or whatever against St Mirren, Dundee, Livingston, Kilmarnock, but another Old Firm game, and he is completely and utterly anonymous. And that's my worry for the Scotland games coming up this week. If we've got to put a midfield of Ryan Christie and David Turnbull in there, well, we'll not be going to any World Cups this year. If that's the standard performance that these two Scottish midfielders are going to put in a big game.
Do you think Wilson? I know Moreles struggled in a lot of Old Firms that performed in Europe. Do you think when it comes to the European games that Christie and Turnbull will fare better, or do you think it's just the Old Firm occasion, or do you think it's just a bigger game?
Well, what you've got to look at, I think, with Morales is Christie and that have scored goals against Jablanek and these other teams. To be fair to Morales, he was scoring goals against Benfica and,
That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. So
teams.
He couldn't do it against Celtic for a long spell. So do you think Christie and Turnbull will produce in Europe this season for Celtic if they're still there?
I fear for Celtic in that European group, to be honest. And as I say, I think, and Charlie touched on you touched on the point about Kent. Morales never went hiding against Celtic. He missed some incredible chances, especially in the League Cup final one year. I remember Greg Gordon had the game of his life at Parkhead one year, and he made 3 or 4 saves from him. But as I say, Morales never went hiding. Ryan Christie and David Turnbull are hiding in Old Firm games because they're not giving Celtic absolutely anything. Now, I didn't think.
Why do you think that is though? Why? Because they're clearly good enough.
They're possibly playing against better players. And Aribo and Davis, etc. But as I say, I don't know if it's a position. Again, you can look into, is Ryan Christie going to be here in 2 or 3 days? Is something lined up? But there's definitely, it could be psychological, or it could be, I'm actually not as good as I think. So, and I would say I'm playing against better players, so I'll be hiding. But see, when I'm up against, no disrespect, the St Mirrens and Livingston, that's where then I'll do better.
Do you think you get more time on the ball in Europe, though? And it gives you that time to think, whereas in an Old Firm game, you're not getting time on the ball. You're just getting closed right down. And you know what it say, if you win your small battles, you effectively win the fight overall.
Some of Charlie, these are 5-yard passes, 10-yard passes for centre midfielders.
I think there's times though in a game like that where you watch Christie and Turnbull and you think, they're good players, but they're not going to. They don't put the fear into you, kind of thing. That you don't think they're going to do something really big here and going to change this game. I don't know why, but you get that feeling with the likes of, as you say, McGregor. I thought McGregor first half was terrific. I thought he was controlling a lot of the tempo for Celtic. I think he used Furuhashi as an outball a lot in the first half. I think with Furuhashi as well, as you can see, as going back to this Ange ball thing, you can see the idea of what they're trying to do. But I think it's going to be against the likes of Rangers, maybe even like Hibs and a Hearts, where maybe not a Hearts, but like Rangers and a Hibs, where they're going to be challenged in the midfield. They're going to get that. I know Celtic a lot of the possession, but you see today Celtic had a lot of the ball in the first half, and once the second half, Rangers got a lot more on the ball, and I don't think Celtic knew how to cope with it. Rory, what would you think of that? Because that's the kind of takeaway I had for the game. When Rangers came out in the second half, you could just see there was a bit of a difference with how Celtic reacted when they were getting challenged a bit in the ball.
I mean, and the one,
that's a good.
Aye, possibly, but we're sitting saying, the Turnbull and Christie looked off it. They gave the ball away a lot, etc., etc. So I don't think that Celtic controlled the midfield in the first half. I thought Callum McGregor showed a lot more.
There was a lot more space. I think they were allowed a lot more space, and you could see McGregor kind of controlling the way that everything was kind of falling for McGregor. But in the second half, that changed.
But do you not think that was down to Rangers' tactics to sit back a wee bit and say, right, have the ball and bring your players out who can defend splitting passes?
Maybe so, but I don't think there was a large portion of the game in the second half where
I think
Celtic's tactics changed.
I think there's a little bit gets lost as to where Celtic are actually at. I think
that as well. Yeah, I think they were put on not the talking in the part, but there was a lot of press about how Celtic were to a much higher stage. We need to remember 3 weeks ago, Celtic were getting beat off Hearts and things like that, and we were a lot of
Celtic. But 2 weeks ago, Rangers get beat off Dundee United.
No, I know. What I'm saying is, like 3 weeks ago, you were thinking this is going to be the same as last season for a Celtic point of view. And
I don't know if we could speak for that.
If you'd said in the first game of the season this year, Celtic will go into Ibrox as favourites, you wouldn't have believed it.
I don't think Celtic were favourites today.
I think they were big. I think a lot of Celtic fans thought that. Is what I'm trying to say. I think a lot of Celtic fans are a lot of confidence.
I don't know if you can speak for the masses when it comes to that type of thing. I think a lot of level-headed Celtic fans would have been quietly confident they could come away with a result. Whether that result is a draw or a win, I'm not quite sure. But what I would say is that, Ange Ball it's just his way of playing. It's his tactics. It's his philosophy. That's what it is.
Do you think he's going to get, as Wilson says, the long-term thing? Because we know this is a project. We know this isn't going to be a one season.
Yeah, but going back to what you were saying a minute ago about, they did beat St Mirren 6-0. They didn't do that last season. They got beat 2-1 at St Mirren at Parkhead. They beat Dundee 6-0. They struggled to beat teams last season. Ross County beat them at home last season. So there's a marked improvement. There's a marked difference.
There's a marked improvement, but
I understand that these teams aren't, at the top of the league pushing. I watched with my own eyes them play some fantastic football and implement a way of playing that that Celtic haven't done for a year or so. So I don't think Celtic fans were going into it thinking we're going to blow Rangers away. We are favourites here. I don't think there was that from the masses. There would have been that mindset, but I think they would have been approaching it going, we have a chance of getting a result here. But I think it would have been measured. And I think that Rangers would have probably approached the game with a bit of apprehension, given their start to the season. But I genuinely don't think there is a lot between the two sides. And I know Wilson thinks that Rangers will canter the league now. I don't believe that, but time will tell who's right on that one.
Because what I'm trying to say is, and I think this is where I kind of want to bring Wilson back in, I can agree with Wilson's point about it was similar than last season. Rangers, I thought Celtic played just as pretty much the same as they did in the first Old Firm game at Ibrox last year, where they were a lot better on the ball, created more chances. I just think the back four, you can see the back four are very, very on the ball. Their distribution just isn't good. I'm not saying Rangers was brilliant either, but you look at how many times did Hart kick the ball away. I don't think Hart's good with the ball at his feet. I'm kind of confused at the signing. If Ange Ball is playing with a goalkeeper who's really good with the ball at his feet, I don't think Joe Hart's equipped for that. That was my thoughts. I thought today, I says Joe Hart, probably a good shot stopper. Definitely a good shot stopper. We don't need to go through his record, but with the ball at his feet, I was nervous watching him at times, just with the ball at his feet.
Celtic could have went out and get any goalkeeper because he's better than the other two.
That's the thing.
So and Joe Hart,
is that solving a problem?
Now,
or is that...
to be honest, there's very, very few goalkeepers, I think, that can play this way with two guys in the 6-yard box and be great distribution of the ball at their feet. I don't think there's that many goalkeepers that can play that game, especially that come and play in Scotland, to be honest. in terms of Joe Hart, I think it's a good signing because of how bad the other two are. But I agree, the back four is, for a team like Celtic, is very, very poor, and it's going to probably cost them the league again. I don't see any way back, psychologically or otherwise, because now, and it has happened, of course, underneath it, I'll beat Rangers, but Celtic are now, it's kind of advantage Rangers that Celtic need to go and win an Old Firm game, which I can't see based on today's performance and personnel. So unless there's maybe 2 or 3 coming in that we don't know about in the next few days, and then come January, there's maybe another kind of spending spree. But if Celtic are going to continue with that back four, then, as I said in the very first show of the season, they'll be lucky if they finish second.
Rory, is that Odsonne Edouard's last game in a Celtic shirt?
I don't know. It's difficult, and we don't know, do we? I mean, you're the man with the updates on the transfers and things like that in terms of, the kind of latest news and things, but I would have no way of telling. I don't think you can tell if somebody's last game or not based on performance. Barisic was maybe more of a tell at the end. He's quite emotional. He's kind of waving at the crowd. He's on his knees. So that's more of a tell. But is somebody going to bid money for Edouard, and is he going to leave?
Do you think today Odsonne Edouard? Do you think today was one Odsonne Edouard's most poorest performance in an Old Firm game? Because I genuinely don't. I don't think he'd.
No, he'd 4 last year. That was worse.
I just don't think he'd any
he's
highlighted
today because he's missed a sitter from 2 yards.
I don't think it's just that. I don't think there was any.
Last year he was worse in the 4 games last year than it was today.
But he was trying to get involved.
At least he ran today. At least he sprinted a couple of times. The last 4 games last year he did absolutely nothing.
I don't remember having a single noteworthy touch in the game. I'll be honest. I just don't think he had a good game at all, and I think it's shown that.
He doesn't want to be there. I mean, there's no, and I've said this about his body language for the last 3 months. He doesn't want to be there, and I would be surprised, even if he is there, that Postecoglou's going to play him, going to start him. So he could eventually be on the bench or in the kind of 20 minutes here and there, unless he's required, until January, and then sign a pre-contract with someone else and get him out the door. Because there's no point in trying to keep playing. Yeah, he's a fantastic player, as he's proved over not the last season a wee bit, but
he was a top goal scorer last season, playing as you say.
Doesn't want to be there. Get him out, stick him with the reserves, have him in training at 6 o'clock in the morning. Piss him off because he is offering you absolutely nothing. He's a man down.
How long's left in his contract?
I think he's out of contract this summer.
18 months, so he can sign for someone in January for free.
Do you think Celtic are having difficulty in getting rid of him? And trying to get him out the door.
I think the price tag's possibly too high.
Do you not think though it's bad? It's bad that this has been to fester within a year. Your kind of prize asset, but it's bad business.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're to believe the rumours, then he was promised a move. It's a wee bit the same as Ayer. They were promised a move after 9 in a row, and then kind of begged to stay. Let's go for 10, and then they won the. I forced his move, to be fair, eventually. I think it's the same with Edouard, but I'm looking, if I'm Graham Potter or Rafa Benitez or any of these guys that have been linked to Edouard, I'm watching that today and going, we've dodged a bullet there. Because I don't think you can sign a striker based on his form 18 months ago.
But do you know what would frustrate me about Edouard? I think if he went to a Brighton or an Everton in the next few days, he would completely change. I think his attitude would totally change because he's got what he wanted, and that's what frustrates me.
I don't know if I buy into that. We're not sitting here questioning David Turnbull's attitude. We're saying he had a poor game and he's not really turned up.
No, but it's what you've seen over the past year. It's the same thing.
But Pikey, you've just said he was top goal scorer last year.
Exactly. Does that not prove though? Just he's playing within himself. What would he be if he was shown 25% more intensity?
He was the top goal.
I agree with you.
I don't agree with that. I don't, and I couldn't agree more. I couldn't disagree more with the whole put him in the reserves and let him rot.
No, I don't think you do that. But
it's not going to be.
He's giving you absolutely nothing, and he's turning up to an Old Firm game and not giving a shit about his performance or his teammates or the fans.
I don't agree with any of that. That's just my opinion, though, and I don't think from any perspective business, football, etc., etc. Being a decent person, treating somebody like that is the way to go in any situation. I don't believe in that. I've seen it happen. It's no nice, and I've seen what it can do to people, and I just don't agree with that approach. But the problem they've got is, you're saying get rid of him. Somebody's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for them. And nobody's willing at the moment to pay for him.
But you lose. But you sign him for $9 million in potential.
I just stick him in the stiffs and get rid of him. Just piss him off.
But how's that going to get rid of him?
He's going to sign for somebody else in January for nothing anyway. So don't have him as part of your squad because he's cheating the fans. He's not. That you cannot tell me that Odsonne Edouard was trying today. No one's going to convince me of that.
I'm not here to try and convince you. I'm here to give my opinion, and my opinion is that he was trying. And that he's maybe over the last year, he's been part of a team which hasn't been particularly successful.
Is that the same as Edouard?
However, in that team, he still managed to finish the highest scorer in the country.
Charlie would finish top scorer on that team with the chances they create.
Thanks.
It doesn't. It's not relevant to whether he's trying or not. If he wasn't trying, he wouldn't be able to score these goals last year. I'm not saying he's the Odsonne Edouard we were seeing 18 months ago, but I don't believe that Ange Postecoglou, especially the way he comes across and the way he holds and handles himself, would pick the guy if he wasn't trying. I don't believe that.
But he basically said,
do you think he's trying too
hard
hard
in the game and said that?
He said that. What? He said if Forrest was fat, he wouldn't have played Edouard. So
yes, but he still
and there's nobody
options.
No, does he though? Does he have a striking option?
If you believe someone's not trying, you don't pick them.
Ajeti.
You don't. I'll be in Ajeti. Griffith's not there.
Pikey, if somebody's not trying, you don't pick them. So Postecoglou's seen enough from Edouard during the week, whenever it may be, to pick the guy. See if he wasn't trying, you would go with anybody else. I just listen. It's a difference of opinion. Nobody's right or wrong. We never actually know. It's just my opinion that I believe that he wants to be there. Yes, he wasn't particularly effective today, but we're no lambasting Turnbull and Christie by saying they should be playing in the reserves and they should be treated like muck and just sent away and this and that.
I'm not advocating that.
If you're a striker and you're not getting service, it's very difficult to try and manufacture the chances or the way to go yourself. And sometimes when Celtic, even though they weren't playing good, they were still creating chances for Edouard to knock in a couple of goals. And today, they didn't create the chances for him. And that's why sometimes, as a striker, your confidence in your head goes down and your body language. And then, probably the worst thing you can do is try too hard to try and do everything. And I think if he batters in a couple of goals and gets a performance, you could potentially see him going right back up to where he was again. I think
he has scored a couple of goals this season. But what I'm saying is, now, again, we've said he's 18 months ago, he was a great player, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not watching that Old Firm game and looking at him going, right, I'm a striker, it's not coming off me. I might try and go a wee bit deeper, try and go on the ball, try and do something constructive and work hard. He did not do that today. He did not. If he's not getting the service, it's a shrug of the shoulders and it's not my fault. And I think that's unacceptable.
See if you go back to the Odsonne Edouard of 18 months ago, he shows moments of brilliance and quality and things. I think if you were to go back, you're watching for these things. Whereas 18 months ago, he would still hold his body shape the same. He would still run the same. He would still be the same. But he was just in better.
Not coming off.
He was just in better. He was in better form then. But these things are forgivable. He's very much a Berbatov character where he's not the type of player who's going to run about mental, and that's not his game. That's not how he plays. And I believe that it's very easy to put that to Edouard just because things aren't going well for him.
So do you think that then, Rory? Then do you think this Ange ball tempo of play might not suit Edouard?
I think he's struggling for form. I think he's struggling for form, and he has been for a wee while now. It might be outside factors. It might be transfer speculation. It might be wanting a move is affecting him. Because that can affect you. If you're wanting out or you feel that maybe a bid's coming, there's a lot of chat, you're hearing all this, that can affect your performance. The guy's human. So these things can affect you, how you think, how you behave. Maybe not even consciously, he maybe doesn't think it is, but it can affect you. And I just think it's the easiest thing in the world to go, he's not trying. Nobody's ever had a bad game for the stand.
right? But when you're out of form and having a shocker, how do you get out of that? You work hard. He doesn't do that.
He might be working on up at Leonardstown. He might be putting in shift after shift after shift at the training session. But the big thing that Celtic have got is who's the other strikers to come in.
That's what I was getting at.
If the fact of the matter is he's not trying, then Ayeti would play before him. That's just that's my opinion. I might be wrong.
Even on is probably better than Ajeti. Or the gamble of playing. I wouldn't imagine Lee Griffiths is any sort of match fitness at the moment. So that tells you the troubles actually run deeper than Odsonne Edward.
I do take a point of Wilson about if things aren't coming off for you, maybe you need to look at working a wee bit harder or doing things that you wouldn't normally do to try and, contribute. So I don't disagree with that part, to be fair, but you're maybe asking a guy to do something that he's knowing his natural makeup.
Right, let's move on to the other games in the league. We'll basically go through the 5 results and we'll ask everybody for the result of the weekend in the Premiership. The D United 0, Hearts 2, Boyce and Angeli with the 2 goals for Hearts to send them to joint top of the league with Hibs. Nisbet and Boyle scored 2 for Hibs as they won 2-0 against Livingston. Martin Boyle with 4 goals in 4 league games so far. Motherwell 1, Dundee 0. Motherwell's Tony walked at the goal. Today, Aberdeen 1, Ross County 1. Charles Cook gave Ross County the league before Ramirez equalised, and it was 0-0 between St Mirren and St Johnstone. Wilson, what was your result of the weekend in the Premiership?
Did I get a perfect score for St Mirren St Johnstone?
I think you did.
I think, and as I say, as much as I hate this, I'm going to praise my colleague Rory. He put on the kind of discussion group earlier on about what a shocker Stephen Glass is having. So I don't think that's a great result for Aberdeen today. Again, as I say, I did back them to get beat in Europe through the week as well. And again, if you're looking for that, I think second spot, third spot in the league, home draws at Ross County's not acceptable. And again, I know we've touched on this, they could play, not used to playing games, etc. Midweek Europe, etc. has an effect. So I think I would maybe give Malky Mackay a wee bit of praise because they've been in an absolute rut. They got absolutely horsed last week from Rangers as well. So I think that's a Malky Mackay and Ross County. I think that's a decent point for them. But poor result for Aberdeen and Stephen Glass.
Rory, what was your result of the weekend in the Premiership, minus Silfam?
I would say Hearts up at Canada. They're going well. So they are. Dundee United with their tails up. A couple of good wins. Sitting on 6 points after 3 games. So I think everyone's seen that one. I think the predictor suggested that we all thought that would be a tight one as well. But by all intents and purposes, I think it was, the 2-0 was a fair reflection on the game. So I think that they're setting down a marker early doors, Hearts, and I'm looking forward to the first Edinburgh Derby this season. I tell you that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks today. Yeah, Charlie, what was your results in the Scottish Premiership?
Yeah, I thought Hearts as well going away to Dundee United. For everything that Rory said with regards to there, and obviously the manner in what they've played as well. Albeit Craig Gordon has kept him in the game at important times with some decent saves and stuff like that. But it seems to be that Robbie Nielsen's got this. You go to the 90 plus 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes, and obviously they picked up the second goal in about the 90th minute for there. And the goals are coming from different players. They're not just relying on boys for there.
So it's interesting as well, just a bit of a side note. Robbie Nielsen's kind of notorious. I know he didn't have a great time at MK Dons, but generally speaking up here, he's been extremely successful. He's notorious for longer sessions, doing afternoon sessions, whether that's in the building, looking at things, or when it's outside. And it's something that I feel quite strongly about. I think footballers finishing at 1 o'clock every day is a farce. There's another 4 hours in the day where surely you can get something. It doesn't need to be out in the pitch, and it doesn't need to be strenuous. Surely, at that amount of time, just in general, there must be something you can do that's going to have a positive impact come a Saturday. There's almost a culture in football where you expect to finish at that time, and it's like, the game after tomorrow and all that part. And if you're in past 1:30, I just think that Robbie Nielsen is probably found a little niche there where he's getting buy-in from his players and it works. And I think more managers should adopt the strategy of trying to get more out of their players.
Jack Ross is like that as well. He's getting them in And that's why the training centre, the canteen, you get in and get your lunch and then you're back out. And as you say, it doesn't need to be 15 laps around the pitch. It can be other things, working on defensive set pieces or working on attacking set pieces where you're not doing a lot of strenuous running or movement. You're just dealing it for there,
Even a couple of afternoons a week, I genuinely believe, don't get me wrong, the guys usually do their fitness on a Tuesday in the gym or whatever else, but on a Monday and a Thursday, and a Friday finish early. And a Friday get the squad going for a coffee or whatever else, but team bonding. But on a Monday and a Thursday, there's so much time in the afternoon that could be used, and Robbie Nielsen, from what I've heard, makes good use of that time.
I think there'll be a lot of professional footballers at Rory's door tomorrow morning after training at 12 o'clock.
I've always felt that way, Wilson, to be fair. I've always felt that way, to be fair. So you're probably right.
I mean, Charlie might remember as well, but I think it was Paul Sturrock that introduced kind of that type of thing at St Johnstone. He had them in like 9 till 5 every day to show like the working week, and they played volleyball one afternoon, they went to a spin class, or they did double sessions and all that, and it was to get them into this. This is what normal people do, such 9 till 5.
Yeah, because Paul Sturrock went down to Plymouth, and he got that idea from them, and for that, and that maybe be where Nielsen's picked it up for MK Dons or something. Maybe he's had it in the past, but in England,
no, he did it with Hearts in the Championship before he went down there. Right.
So in England, they seem to do that all the time. It's no finishing at 1 o'clock or whatever the case. A lot of teams are in for whatever the case may be in the afternoon, rather than up you go up the road and away to whatever the case may be. Snooker or whatever, for there.
We'll talk about more.
Something else, Wilson.
So did I. I thought
I used to go to it's funny you say that, Wilson. I used to do that as an apprentice at Kilmarnock. I used to go up to what's the name of snooker hall back then?
Pyramid.
No. It was up above the hairdressers.
Oh, it was above the Puggies. It was above the cabaret.
I can't remember.
It was in Titchfield Street.
Conway's hairdressers, Craig Conway's hairdressers.
It's up the stairs.
The Pyramids, is that what it was called?
No, the Pyramid
was away up
the train station.
If anyone knows the name of that club, please send it into the channel in the comments section. We are going to look at the Championship. We'll just go through these quickly. Dunfermline 0, Arbroath 3, Kilmarnock 0, Inverness 1, Partick 3, Morton 0, Queen of the South 1, Hamilton 2. Wilson, let's start at the top of the table clash. Kilmarnock 0, Inverness 1. What's your thoughts?
Well, again, I don't think it's a great result. I say my mother took my kids yesterday because I was otherwise busy, and I won't read out what her analysis was, but she did say it was very poor. That was her first time back in Rugby Park for a couple of years, and she said it was pretty hard going. By all accounts in social media and highlights and whatnot, I've seen, I think a lesser man would say Inverness kicked us off the park. But speaking to a couple of guys in the know, I said it was kind of job done for Inverness. They broke up Kelly's kind of style of play, we're physical, get men behind the ball, and probably followed their game plan to a T. So maybe go credit to Inverness, but as I said, I did hear from several people last night that Kelly were really, really poor.
Bobby Wright being one of them. He was quite honest in his interview.
I always think you can tell by his face, not even what he says, but you can see, how irate he was. And it is, of course, it's a worry. First things first, if you want to win a league and get promoted or whatever, you've got to win your home games, and especially against your closest rivals. But again, not too many positives from Rugby Park yesterday, unfortunately. My result of the day in that league, again, I listened to the expert analysis at East End Park.
Just about to say,
on Open All Nights.
I would have been jealous with that performance.
So I'll go for Partick's home one at Morton then.
Gavin was at Fairhill.
So no, I'm going to say, look, Rory's more to talking probably result of the day that everyone probably thinks was the best result in the first division yesterday.
Yeah, definitely, Rory. Dunfermline 0, Arbroath 3, you were there. Give us a thoughts. That's a massive result for Dick Campbell again.
I mean, it's difficult. I've been there in that division. You're the full-time team. You're at home to the part-time team. There's an expectancy that you win the game. Otherwise, you're going to get that. Oh, they're part-time, and the Arbroath fans were letting the Dunfermline fans know that they were part-time. They actually made some noise, some racket. The Arbroath fans. It was a good atmosphere. They lined up 4-5-1. Dunfermline were. I don't know. I mean, I watched them against Rangers, and then the first 15 minutes against Wraith before the lights went out, and they were trying to adopt this, this style of play, this kind of, the getting the centre backs on the ball and getting their wide men wide and coming in and all that. And it just went out the window on Saturday. I don't know if they were just desperate to get the 3 points, but it was just long ball after long ball. And then when they did try and play a little bit more in the second half, they just couldn't get through Arbroath. The biggest thing I couldn't believe was they had a lad up front, Joel Newbley, his name was, Arbroath. Big lad. He was unbelievable. Like, unbelievably good. So he's a big boy, and I'm thinking, right, big lad in that division, typically can't really move much. A Christian Nadi type where he bullies people about, but the ball needs to be to his feet, or because he doesn't move to get it otherwise. But after about 5 or 6 minutes, he flicks the ball over the centre back's head with a lovely touch. Showed some really nice flashes. He was quick. His quality was good. He got a couple of assists. The guy was frighteningly good. And then to hear David Martindale after the Livingston game complain about all his injuries and all his sicknesses and kind of every excuse under the sun when it comes to players missing, and then to hear that Newbley's on loan from Livingston, I was thinking, wow, like he easily, comfortably could play in that league. But overall, Arbroath were well worthy winners. But it was an interesting debut on Open All Mike. Had 3 disallowed goals, and I kept interrupting people, much to their annoyance. But hey, we go again. These late linesman's flag, they take about 10 minutes to put them up.
I know.
No, it's this wait and see now, malarkey. For that.
Charlie, what was your result of the weekend in the Championship?
Yeah, it's very difficult to disagree with Arbroath because of where they are, but Hamilton going down to Dumfries and obviously getting a result to kind of stem the flow of negativity around about that, plus also a new manager in. Is it the new manager bounce? From that point of view, Hamilton then rise up to 5th from effectively 9th, albeit games are off and so forth. But no, difficult to not go with Arbroath, and Dick Campbell is an absolute character, and also it heaps pressure on Peter Grant straight away after what they said, 3 games and sitting at the bottom with 1 point, and probably, as Rory obviously been there, no playing well, no devoid of ideas or devoid of tactics, etc.
Yeah. 2 home games.
It's quite funny. Sorry, just on that. I've spoken to a number of people, and we had a great debate on here, I'm sure, one night about the massive differences between a coach and a manager. And from loads of people I've spoke to, regale Peter Grant as one of the best coaches in British football, probably. But then, as a manager, I know it's lower league teams, Ireland and Felon, but he seems to have a shocker. But in terms of, I've heard he's a very, very highly regarded coach, but maybe just not a manager.
Maybe he's trying,
because that's a terrible result. He's under major pressure.
Well, Wilson, that's them. The last home game. Remember, they get beat 3-0 at home to Partick. They've played 2 home games this year.
Yeah, that's right.
They've conceded 6 and scored none.
Yeah,
but maybe he's trying to influence. You know what it's like. My system, my thing, and it takes the players a bit of time to get into how he wants to.
That's kind of what I was saying. Like they didn't have a way of playing or a system.
No.
And see if you're getting beat 3-0, but you can see wee flashes, then you're going, right, this might take time, new manager, 5-6 new players, right, we'll stick with it. But their actual identity looked so different to what he was trying to incorporate, change their system to a 4 at the back. And it was quite strange. I was expecting to turn up and see them at least trying to play a certain way, but it was very laboured, it was very slow. And Arbroath were... I was speaking to Nicky Lowe before the game. He used to play with Nicky. He's a good lad, got a wonderful left foot. Yeah. And he was saying that they just rat about in the middle of the pitch, and then when they get the ball, they've actually got good players technically, and they do have boys. Craig I played with at Falkirk as well. Him, Nicky as well. I played with Dundee. They've got boys who can play. And I tell you what, the hunting packs to win it back, and they certainly did that on Saturday, and they were well worthy of 3-0 winners.
Definitely. We'll move into League One. We will touch on the 4 results in there. Clyde 2, Cove Rangers 1, East Fife 3, Peterhead 0, Falkirk 0, Queen's Park 1, Montrose 1, Dumbarton 2. Rory, give us your result of the weekend in League One.
Well, I tipped Clyde to win 3-0, and Wilson quite rightly pointed out that whilst Clyde aren't the strongest, if you've got David Goodwillie on your side, then you've always got a chance. However, I'm actually going to go with the Queen's Park. Probably boring people now saying this, but again, that league will come down to games against each other when it comes to. I do believe Cove will come good when it comes to games against Cove, Queen's Park, Falkirk. It'll be the head-to-heads which may decide that, because I think they'll probably win the majority against the others. So for Queen's Park to go to Falkirk and win 1-0, I think that's a big win for them.
Yeah, definitely. Wilson, what was your result in League One?
I think you've got to look at Queen's Park. Falkirk will be one of the near challengers. So to go away there and win. Not really surprised at the Peterhead result, how comfortable it was, right enough for maybe a bit of a shock. But no, I'll stick with Queen's Park there, beating Falkirk. So I got back Falkirk to 1-2-1.
Brilliant. Charlie, what was your result in League One?
I'm going for Dumbarton. Dumbarton away to Montrose. We were praising Stuart.
That one. I got one right the full weekend, but that was one of them.
Was it? Very good.
That's because you tipped Celtic and all right, I know.
Sorry, Charlie.
We were on here last week praising about Stuart Petrie and Montrose doing well, sitting second top. And then I think before kick-off, Dumbarton were either 8th or 9th. And they're away. And they seem to have done it in merit. And it's not just like a smash and grab type of thing. Reading the reports for there. Obviously, Stevie Farrell will be delighted. It'll take a bit of pressure off for him as well. Moving for Stranraer to Dumbarton, I don't think or some of the Dumbarton fans weren't they kind of enamelled with it, but there you go. And now you're looking for them to kick on, and it's always easy. Maybe not the wrong thing to say. It's always easy to get a one-off result. It's trying to get that 2 and 3 and 4 runs of games where you can just, in particular at the moment, 2 or 3 wins can take you from 9th to 2nd, and whereas at Christmas time 2 or 3 would only maybe move you 1 or 2 places.
Yeah, definitely.
Has anyone seen Dumbarton's first goal? If you haven't, please take your time to have a look at it. It gets crossed in for a free kick to the back stick. Liam Buchanan goes to hook it back across the goal, volleys it against his own face and lobs the keeper.
I saw it this morning. I think was it him that tweeted it?
Quite possibly.
It's not often you score with your face, and then he kicks it and hits his face and goes in.
I tipped Dumbarton to win and the other centre back to score to. So I was
McGee,
that one.
You won the far away, pal.
Brilliant. League Two, we'll touch on League Two quickly before we take some fan questions. Cowdenbeath 1, Annan Athletic 3, Forfar 1, Stranraer 1, Stenhousemuir 1, Kelty 4, Stirling 2, Albion Rovers 1, and Edinburgh City beat Elgin 2-0 on Friday night. Wilson, gives you a result in League Two.
Jamie Hamill, Stranraer. I'll go a wee draw away for home. I know he's been toiling a wee bit, so I think anything to get away from home's a bonus. And that just saves me mentioning Chris Johnson again on the programme. So go with Jamie Hamill this week and Stranraer's 1 each.
Brilliant. Rory, what was yours?
I would say, listen, you can't argue with a 4-0 win away from home, so
Kelty.
I'll go with Kelty.
I got a perfect score for that as well, by the way.
Did you?
I said Kelty 4-1. Yeah.
Oh, was it 4-1? Sorry.
Go back and check the show. Go back.
I was going to say Stranraer, to be fair, because I know their squad was depleted with a number of cases of different things.
Subs. I think they'd only 3 subs.
Aye, and as Wilson says, I think it's one thing, going up there with a depleted squad, being bottom of the league with 1 point, and then going 1-0 down to a team in form. So Kelty was probably my result of the weekend, but an honourable mention from my hometown.
Yeah, I think we had a wee special mention to Darryl Duffy as well, friend of the show, who scored and broke his hand in 3 places, I think. So
he scored with his hand?
No, I don't know if he scored. I think he's. I checked his Instagram. I saw his Instagram. He had a broken hand, so he scored a goal and broke his hand. So, best wishes to Darryl. Charlie, what was your results in League Two?
I think Kelty are probably doing a kind of Edinburgh City Cove Rangers thing coming in, and then obviously setting the heather on fire with regards to that. Going away to okay, Stenhousemuir, they're maybe struggling for a wee bit of form for there, but sometimes thumping it. But obviously, you have all mentioned Stranraer. down at the bottom, struggling. Every point's a prisoner with regards to their fourth are flying high for there. But I'll go for Celtic Hearts.
Aaron have had some start, haven't they?
Yeah, Aaron are sitting second, aye.
Some start.
And a point behind them. But Aaron going to Cowdenbeath. Cowdenbeath are seventh. Sometimes you think...
You must have the league table up, Charlie. You surely don't know all that off the top of your head.
That's why he keeps looking to his sitting with the C-facts up. Talking like with the C-facts.
Preparation.
Reeling off stats about four first subs.
Preparation.
Brilliant. That's our results in the SPFL. Let's take some fan questions quickly. Rory, will Borna Barisic be a Rangers player on Wednesday?
You asked me that about Edward as well. Listen, his reaction would suggest that he's got something lined up, or his agent's got something lined up.
Do you think that's transfer? Do you think that's transfer talk, or do you think that's because he's been off the boil when he's put in a performance today?
What do I think he's going to be tipped for a move because he played well today?
No, do you think that was more like an appreciation to the fans kind of thing? Because I've not heard anything to suggest he's leaving. I don't think that was. I don't think his reaction at the end, but I think we'll pass over to our colleague Mark Wilson, who's got some inside information for us. Yes, how's that?
Oh, and that inside information has been kept fully as a secret. As Scott didn't think my source had any credence within that rumour, so I'll keep that to myself. However, what I did hear was that he was getting kicked out of Ibrox for a disciplinary issue because today he was wearing green football boots. So he was told to take them off at half-time by Steven Gerrard via FaceTime and he refused. So he said, "You'll never kick another ball for this club." So he kept the green boots on and that's him away up the road.
That's another one that's probably best suited to Rory as well. What is your thoughts on Lee Griffiths potentially moving to Dundee? Do you think that will happen?
That's an interesting one.
I know that he is very close with Jazza. I know that they were together at Livingston. Listen, I don't know what the relationship's like, if he's like a father figure, that type of idea, but
Lee Griffiths has got enough father things to worry about.
I think that Lee Griffiths needs to get away from Celtic, maybe needs to get out of the Goldfish Bowl, which is Glasgow and the Old Firm. And, for his sake, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes with people and, what's going through their own heads. And listen, I don't know if the guy's had any troubles or whatever else, but, hopefully he's okay, and getting him up to Dundee might be a good thing for him, getting him back up there and, working under somebody that he's got a close relationship, maybe understands him pretty well and can get the best out of him. But first and foremost, like I said, I think if you can get Lee Griffiths, the human being, in a good space, then you're guaranteed goals on the pitch. And to a club like Dundee, that's absolutely priceless.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the conversation that Gordon Strachan, as the consultant at Celtic, speaking to Gordon Strachan, who's the director of football at Dundee? Well, what do you think of this boy? We'll bring him up and see how he gets on.
I know.
Brilliant. Quickly, just before we finish up, Wilson, we'll give this to you. Thoughts on Scotland's upcoming qualifiers? Obviously, Denmark away, home to Moldova, away to Austria. I think it's away to Austria, yep. 3 big games. How many points will they take from those 3 games?
I would be hopeful of 6, but I think it will possibly be 4. I think the toughest game's away in Denmark, to be honest with you. So I think if you get anything from that, comfortable win at home to Moldova. I'll be there next Saturday with the kids, watch that one. And Austria, I think it's always one of these ones that could, if Scotland go there and win 2-1 or lose 2-1, you wouldn't be surprised at either. But as I say,
Austria battered us at Hampden the last time.
That's because Bobby Madden was the ref and he's an Austrian. I would think 4 points, hopefully 6, but I think 4 points would be a decent start.
Midfield 2 of Turnbull and Christie, Mark?
Then no points out of 9 and Moldova beat us 14-0. I'd rather play Kenny McLean.
I don't think Turnbull's in the squad, is he?
I think he is, isn't he?
Surely.
I don't think he is.
Well, Steve Clark certainly knows more than us 4, that's for sure.
Gilmore will play, surely.
Well, you've
Well,
got
to be fair, I was going to bring this up. Did you watch the highlights yesterday? The Norwich Leicester.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Bullied, didn't he? Gilmour get bullied. He was just wasn't. He couldn't compete physically in that middle of the park. Great on the ball, but they put someone right on. I forget who it was.
I think it was Ndidi. Was it Ndidi?
Ndidi, I know he's a class player, but he was thumping into him and all that, and Gilmour just couldn't get into his stride.
That's probably one aspect of his game.
In international football, he'll get plenty of time on the ball, to be fair, the kid, and hopefully he turns in the same performance like he did at Wembley, but he has to probably be the first name in the team sheet, surely.
I think so, yeah.
For especially for the first game, I would imagine.
I think Charlie's got teletext up and going to give us a squad.
Yeah, so ruled out Stuart Armstrong, Scott McTominay, Patterson, O'Donnell, Fedea, Greg Taylor, James Forrest, and John McGinn.
McGinn's a massive miss as well.
Your four best players are missing there, in my opinion. Gilmour, McTominay, McGinn, and Armstrong. It's your four best players.
Is Turnbull in the squad, Charlie?
He has to be now, surely, with those four.
Must be, yeah, I think he.
Yeah.
I think Joe Aribo might be in that squad.
Who?
Joe Aribo. Man, a midfielder we've got missing, get him in the squad.
Did Tierney not go off injured at the weekend as well?
No, he's just embarrassed.
He went off embarrassed, aye. But yeah.
Sorry, Pikey, I've had a question tweeted into me.
I was actually just about to go into that. Is it the same one that I've got from?
He's clarified it though. What it actually means, I didn't really get it when he.
Why am I nervous all of a sudden?
No. Mr. Hart only keeps questions for Mega. Don't worry about that. And don't worry, Darryl, I'll see you on Friday night, pal. Hospitality box at Darvel. That's your story. So, Greg Mitchell, Charlie, you must have sent him off a couple of times. Greg Mitchell in the juniors, no?
Greg Mitchell.
I played with May Bole and the Buffs and that. No, he must have sent him off. Striker. No.
No. When did he play?
Oh, some folk would say he never played. Don't know. I'm trying what age Greg will be now.
I finished in the juniors 99, 2000.
No, he'll be a new kid on the block. Who's only about 25 now or something? Anyway, so now I think by the question you'll be able to guess what team Greg supports. I don't think he makes any secret of that on social media. But Postecoglou's inherited a squad at a value of 40 million. He's since spent 20 million. And what's the expectation? And is he getting a free ride so far? Now, we had a wee discussion about it just to clarify, and his comment was Warburton II. So do you think Angie's possibly getting a free ride with the squad that he's got and how much money he's spent?
Here's my argument about that, right? And I want to put this to everybody. Is Postecoglou going to get less pressure if things go wrong because of the messy appointment? Because of how much of a mess.
As I've said multiple, I'll let the other two guys answer, but as I've said multiple times on this programme and on this channel, I don't think Postecoglou will get the same amount of time that Steven Gerrard got to get it right.
No, and I think Gerrard's
Steven Gerrard has spent pots of money as well. Let's not forget.
But Gerrard's a unique situation because of
seasons.
Gerrard's a unique situation because of his name, though. I think Gerrard.
I don't think that should matter. I think you now look and think that, well, the job probably Steven Gerrard set out to do, he has in effect completed. I'm quite sure he would have loved a treble because of how bad Celtic were last year. But Steven Gerrard's objective after 7 in a row or 6 or whatever it was at the time was to stop 10. Anything other than that was a bonus, and he did well in European competitions. So as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of job done for Steven Gerrard. When I'm quite sure he'll be looking to the treble this year again. But as I say, in terms of a free ride, I don't know if I agree with that because he is very new, but I don't think Postecoglou will get the same amount of time. I think he'll get the same amount of time as Warburton, but not the same amount of time as Gerrard.
I think he probably sails in the same boat as Ronnie Dyler.
Me too.
I don't think he obviously wasn't the first choice, the same as Ronnie Dyler. Ronnie Dyler was meant to be second choice to Roy Keane, and Roy Keane knocked it back. So Dyler was already in place, and hence the reason why they brought John Collins in. Now, Ronnie Dyler was reasonably successful when he didn't get a long time from there. Postecoglou, we don't know who's recommended him. We don't know where the setup or the name has came from.
I heard from sources in Australia it was done through an agent.
Right. So therefore, with that setup, you're probably saying he really has got 1 year to prove himself, and that might buy him a second year. You know what it's like? It's always, manager syndrome is always the second season.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a great first start, and it's the second season that defines you from that side. The modern day manager doesn't get, apart from Steven Gerrard because he's naming that, the modern manager doesn't get 3 and 4 seasons, where I think they should. If you're going to take a plant with a manager, you've got to give him time to try and implement and do it, because there's no many people can turn it round in 1 season. So a free ride is maybe a wee bit of hard work, but he'll not get a long period of time as what Gerrard got with his name.
Rory, what's your thoughts?
Well, one thing I've never understood is the whole, he wasn't first choice. How does he feel about that? What I don't understand that. How do you ever get an opportunity in life? Do you think Robbie McCrory turned around the day and went, no, because see if McGregor was fit, he would get picked, so I'm not playing today because I wouldn't be fit. Doesn't make any sense. Like that's how anyone gets an opportunity. You're not going to necessarily be first, and then you've got to you do well to earn that. So I don't really get the whole idea that he's no first choice. So how does he feel about that? I don't get that way of thinking, to be honest, because that's how the world works. You're not always going to be first choice, but when you do get picked, you need to go in and make sure that he's the next guy to go and get a move to Leicester, like Brendan Rodgers did. Because Brendan Rodgers got a move to Leicester based on what he did at Celtic. I know he's got a history before that, but at the end of the day, he's now been given a platform. He's not going to feel bad about it because he was second choice.
No.
So, in terms of how long he's going to get, I don't know. He might be the master of his own downfall in terms of how they're playing. There was almost an expectation today, from Celtic fans that they might get a result, a draw or whatever else, which they didn't see coming. And that's down to Postecoglou, what he's done, the players he's brought in and how they've been playing. So, if in 3 or 4 weeks they're not hitting the heights that they were, is he going to become under pressure because, he's not getting the best out of his team or whatever else? But again, the Gerrard thing, it's not... How would
you feel, Rory, if your manager, whether you're a player or a supporter, come out saying, I got it wrong, I got it wrong, I got it wrong?
We've touched on this, and like I said, kind of earlier on...
Your managers have said that about Rory, Charlie, whatever that.
Aye, they have. But when Gerrard gives an interview and he says he gets it wrong, he doesn't specify was Postecoglou went in and I've already said on the show tonight that I don't know how that'll sit with Edward. I think it was a bit of a strange thing to say publicly. I think you can come out and say I didn't quite get it right today, it didn't work, but to be so specific, for me that's a conversation you have with your staff. But in terms of how long he gets, Steven Gerrard's, in my opinion, it's no his name that got him the time. It was Rangers hitting a point where they went, right, our next appointment, we stick with him regardless.
Yeah, I think that as well.
So I don't think he got time because you think they're scared to sack him because he's Steven Gerrard?
No, but I think there was a buzz around. I think there was a buzz around the place because of the appointment of one of the best players in England at the time.
I think there would have been a decision made that, barring a disaster and finishing 4th in the league, we stick with the next manager we appoint, and that has paid dividends for Rangers. And I think that Postecoglou will get the same amount of time that any other Rangers or Celtic manager would normally get, and Steven Gerrard was an exception because of the 10 in a row circumstances, not who he was. If Steven Gerrard had come in at a period of time where Rangers had won the last 2 titles and Celtic had won the last 2, and performances had been where they'd been for the first 2 years, Gerrard wouldn't have seen his season where he won the league. That's my opinion. So it wasn't to do with his name, it was to do with the set of circumstances when he was appointed. He was appointed, and in my opinion, it was right. We go the whole hog, he brings in his backroom staff, he comes in, and we commit to this. We commit to it, and we either at this point get the 10 or we don't get the 10. We stop the 10 or it happens. I don't think it's to do with the fact he's Steven Gerrard. I don't think business people operate like that.
You've probably got a case there. It's Wilson. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm kind of torn between the two, to be honest. I just, when Gerrard was appointed, do you think, was it just stop 10 in a row? That was his objective? Do you think that was the number one objective, and that was it?
Probably, yeah.
Because let's be honest, these first few seasons were very underwhelming. They weren't even close. The first one definitely. Second one, I think after Christmas they just felt
see the 10 in a row wasn't a thing, Wilson. I think he would have been sacked during that period.
I mean, as I say, I wouldn't be surprised if he won 10 in a row now, judging by that performance again today in the Old Firm. But I would hate to think, that Steven Gerrard, I'm not saying get an easy ride, because you don't get an easy ride if you're the Celtic Rangers manager. No. An easy air ride, shall we say, than Warburton, Caixinha, etc., because of who he was. Because let's be honest, Steven Gerrard had coached Liverpool under 18s before he gets one of the biggest clubs in the world's job, and he keeps that job because of who he is.
Do you think
plenty of big name footballers that have absolutely flopped as managers?
But Warburton and Caixinha are coming in with a better track record.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm surprised. I mean, well, I'm not surprised, but that you feel Gerrard kind of kept the job because of who he is rather than what he's done.
I mean, to go back to
if someone said to you, do you want Brendan Rodgers as your manager or Frank Lampard? Now, Frank Lampard's career was better than Brendan Rodgers, but Brendan Rodgers is miles ahead of him as a manager.
I think the fans, I think he maybe got a slightly easier ride than most from sections of the fans because of who he was, and they wanted it to work so much. But
yeah,
in terms of the board and things like that, I don't. But what I would say about the difference for me between a Caixinha and a Postecoglou is, Caixinha's methods, his style, the things he was, it never really worked. It was a bit of an embarrassment. Whereas, see with Postecoglou, you can see signs. I know Wilson doesn't agree with me, but this is what it's all about. It's opinions. But you can see.
I don't agree with you. I struggled to see when people are mentioning, and always say it's a kind of thing now that Ange Ball, but from the positive vibes that everyone was talking about Ange Ball against Dundee, St Mirren and Hearts, and to look at that today, and I'm going, apart from playing at a faster tempo, that was a Neil Lennon Old Firm performance.
Well, Neil Lennon
pass the ball 5 yards, and players are not trying.
Neil Lennon's side was beat off Ferencváros and trying to qualify for the Champions League. Granted, Postecoglou was knocked out as well in his first couple of games with a squad which he didn't have, that he has got now, and they've scored, what was it, 4 goals against 3 goals against a very good Dutch outfit. So I think it's more than just the league games. They've now progressed to the Europa League stages in a very tricky tie. So I think Postecoglou a little bit more time because there's signs there, and I think he holds himself well. And I think likability goes a long way in football, in the way you go about in your business, how you present yourself. And I think on the pitch, the players are buying into him, and he's got that respect, and you can see what he's trying to do. Whereas Caixinha, it was just debacle after debacle of things, just ridiculous things that weren't even relevant to football. It just became a wee bit stupid. So
was Caixinha worse than Paul Le Guen, Rory?
Aye. I didn't work under Caixinha. I was there when
I know that. I'm just
saying
from a neutral's point of view.
Paul Le Guen, going back to the idea of, I was talking about Nielsen earlier, kind of making use of the afternoons again. Paul Le Guen he tried to implement certain ways
cultures
from the continent.
He had tried to implement the cultures.
So he banned diluting juice. He banned wee gums in the massage room, wee bits that, listen, a lot of the Scottish boys enjoyed. It's little, I don't know, it seemed like such small bits.
Is the Monster Munch story true?
I've never heard the Monster Munch one, but obviously the diluting juice one or whatever. But what he used to do is, we used to train first thing in the morning, and he used to get the boys back in later afternoon. So there was like a 5 or 6 hour period, and boys just started, what they would do first of all is they would go home, then they come back, and then they're sitting in the house for an hour to come back again. So what they started doing was just kind of sleeping around Murray Park and things. It didn't really work. Whereas on the continent, it obviously had worked.
Yeah,
and I just don't think Le Guen fitted the Scot. I think he knew what he was doing and he was good at it. but I just don't think
Then
he's
get the
suited.
buy-in from the players.
I don't
Aye.
think, because
Aye.
there's a famous story of him wanting to quit in September as well. But that's a rewrite. That's a story for another day.
Paul Le Guen was, I personally thought, was for I wasn't involved all the time, obviously, but training with him or whatever. So I thought he was good, to be fair. But I just don't think he was suited to the Scottish game and how it is. And I'm not sure.
Yeah, definitely. But we are going to wrap up the show there. We have had another fantastic episode of the Scottish Football Show. We are going to be back on Thursday with a special extra episode. We're going to talk to Brian McGarry and Craig Pettigrew from Glenafton. Thanks very much to everyone that's tuned in. Wilson, Charlie, Rory, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Scott.
Brilliant. Thanks very much to everyone that's tuned in and subscribe to our channels and follow us on social media. Thanks very much, everyone. Cheers.